How we doing, Algebra 2? We're hanging in there? Do you need to take a break, hit pause, go get a drink, use the restroom? Do what, make it happen. But we got to persevere through this stuff. Keep going, okay? So we just talked about finding the domain. What were all the x values? We had those 3 questions that we had to ask ourselves. We can ask ourselves the same questions for range, but now we're talking about outputs. We're talking about the y values, up and down, where does my graph exist? Another way I like to think of it is, where's the lowest point on my graph? Where's the highest point on my graph? That would help me with the does it go down forever, does it go up forever? So we can start modeling those questions as well. Okay, so I brought back those graphs we were looking at before, those functions where we were finding the domain, but this time we're flipping the script and we're talking range. What will the range be for this piecewise function, okay? Does it go down forever? Yes, it does. Does it go up forever? Yes, it does. Are there any gaps? No, there's not. If you answer those questions like that on any of these, the answer is all real numbers. Again, any y value you want, our graph exists. At -3 down here is their graph. At 15 is their graph yet, because it'll go up forever. So the answer to this one, the range, will be all real numbers. And here are the different ways we can write all real numbers. The fancy R, interval notation from -infinity to +infinity, that means all numbers. Or we could just write the words, all numbers. Okay. Next was the loop-de-loop one. I want you to find the range for this one. Okay, so this is, again, where we talked about the new questions. The old questions, does it go up forever, down forever? The answer is no. It doesn't go down forever. It doesn't go up forever. So the other way to phrase it is to say, what is the lowest point on my graph? How far? It goes down, how far? Okay, well, in this case, here's the lowest point it ever gets. That would be at -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. -6 is the lowest it ever gets. What's the highest it ever gets to? Highest it gets to, it looks to be right about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So are there any gaps? Are there any breaks? No. All the values in between 5 and -6 are covered somewhere. 3.1, 1, 2, 3.1. Yes, there's graph there. There's graph a few times. -15, not -15, -6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's that one little point right there. Any value up and down between -6 and 5, there's going to be graph. Okay? That's our range. We want to know what the y values are, any value between -6 and 5. So here's how we write that. Any value between, remember how we learned how to do between in our intervals in class today, depending on when you watch this, today for me, between -6 and 5. I can write it in words, between -6 and 5. Notice, both of these, it's not an open circle. Yes, there's an open circle here at the 4 value and the -4 value, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the very tippy bottom point of this. That's colored in. There's a dot there. So, or equal to. We're talking about this one, or equal to. They both get the lines underneath them. So we need to include both, including -6 and 5. As a little side note, when you write our intervals like this, the Pac-Man inequality symbols will always eat to the right. It's always going to look like that, okay? Don't mix and match and put our Pac-Mans in different directions. The smaller of the two numbers will always go on the left as well. That's what it says in blue. Okay? There's interval notation. Between -6 and 5 is how we would read that. Brackets are because they're equal signs. If it's or equal to, we put brackets. If it's just greater than or just less than, then it's a parenthesis. Okay? Let's look at the last one. Pretend like you can't see the answer momentarily. Let's see if I can put it up high this time. Yep, that was the domain, but we're looking for the range. Okay, does it go down forever? No. Up forever? No. Are there gaps? Man, it sure looks like it. Okay, but we're talking y values now. What's the lowest the y value ever gets for this function? It looks like it starts right here, the y value, at 0. Then all these values in here are taken care of until we get to 1, 2, 3, looks like it could be about 4.5. We can't include 4.5 because it's an open circle. We're excluding 4.5. It's exclusive. So right up until 4.5, but not 4.5 itself. All those values are already covered, so we don't even really need to talk about this value. I mean, this is a constant right here. It's just 1, but we already handled 1 over here. That's between 0 and 4.5. 1, 2, 3. This whole thing is 3, but we've already handled 3 over here. So this little chunk of graph is going to give us our range, enough of our range. So it goes from 0 to 4.5, but we're not including 4.5. You can write it in words. You can write it in This notation, we're talking the y values now, remember, because it's range between 0 and 3.5, including the 0, not including 3.5. You can write it just in words, or you can write in interval notation. Include the 0. Don't include the 3.5. Range, we're ranging it. All right, moving on.